Shiver me timbers, it's April in the giveaway journal. This bullet journal setup is a swashbuckling adventure through April 2024. Hi, I'm Erin, thanks for planning with me, and can I just say, Yarr! Actually, that's surprisingly similar to how people think Australians say no, so maybe I am a pirate. We're kicking off here on the cover spread, and I'm taking inspiration from a font called Black Pearl for my April lettering this time. The fact that it's called Black Pearl, which is that sort of tie-in to the Pirates of the Caribbean movies, really makes this appropriate because I do feel like the Pirates of the Caribbean movies turned pirates from a scary historical thing that really happened to a really fun adventure thing for so many of my generation. So when I call this a pirate theme, I want you to know I'm not trying to glorify real piracy here. I just enjoyed movies with pirates in them growing up, like Hook and Stardust, and of course the Pirates of the Caribbean movies. That said, this layout actually isn't super piratey, and partially that's because it's really hard to find pirate-themed stationery in the first place. So if you're not into pirates, we could maybe just think of this as a vintage sailing theme instead, and I feel like it would still work. Almost all of the papers, washi tapes, and stickers that I'm using in this setup are from Journal Say, and you can get 8% off at Journal Say if you'd like to with my code Erin. I've had these map fragments pieces of paper for a while, and as soon as I saw them I knew I wanted to do a pirate theme, but I was having trouble collecting other stationery to go with them because there's just not that much around. I'm teaming them up with my very favourite script washi tape. I use this all the time, I can't believe it's still going, and I love a torn edge on things, so I've been tearing my washi tape in half, and I'm going to continue to do that every time I use it throughout the whole setup. Because my April heading is very big and bold on the page, I wanted to make sure that I was leaving some space around it, so my favourite way to decorate when I want to keep the centre of the page quite minimal is to add a strip of decoration along the left and right sides of the page, kind of like columns that hug the outside edges. Because April is kind of a shorter word, I decided to go with the vertical decorations, but you could do the same thing if you had a month with a longer name like September or something, and you could decorate the top and bottom of the page instead in order to keep that balance happening, and I think that would look really nice too. Now I know I'm not known for a brown layout, I know it's very kind of not my usual style, but every now and then I like to have a little play with some colours that are a bit outside my comfort zone. So I've grabbed out all of the stationery I own that falls within this kind of warm beige brown colour palette. I've also grabbed lots of black and white pieces. These little paper scrolls and feather and ink situations are so lovely. I feel like they're subtly piratey, but in an academia kind of way. I also have some cardboard bottle shapes as well that I'm planning to use because they can kind of represent the rum that is always gone. I thought that was a bit cute and clever. If not the rum, then maybe they are for messages in bottles and they just haven't got their messages yet. Who knows? I'm using a combination of glue tape and a glue pen to make sure that I stick these down really well, because some of these shapes, not the black and white books and scrolls and things, but the bottles are quite thick, so I feel like they need that. Isn't this brush roll just perfect? Actually, I'm using it for pens, but it would work well with paintbrushes as well. It's just so incredibly perfect for this theme. And I'm using some calligraphs from Archer and Olive for my markers for this one. They're really the only browns that I own, and I kind of just keep them around because they're the only browns that I own, so they're perfect for this. I'm going to use the darkest brown to outline my lettering for the April heading here, and then just jump back in and colour it in. Before we get too much further into the video, I thought I'd explain a bit about the giveaway journal concept in case you haven't seen any of these videos from me before. This was made in a journal that I fully set up for 6 months of the year in advance over the course of November and early December last year, and then I ran a little giveaway on my channel and I sent this journal to a lovely subscriber. It's kind of just a nice way for me to use up some more of my stationery, offer you guys a slightly different version of some inspiration for the month that's different to what I would do maybe in my own journal. And also, I quite often get comments from people who are saying, I would love to do this, but I don't feel like I have the skills to start, I don't know what I would need, I don't know how to get started. So it was kind of another way for me to provide some inspiration for a starting point, and for one person to actually give them that starting point and hopefully let them learn what they like and what they don't like through using a journal that was pre-set up. And I will be doing this again for the second half of the year. I have a journal all lined up. I haven't started on it yet, but I'm going to be starting on it soon. So if you'd like to win a giveaway journal, not this one, but the next one, keep an eye out because that giveaway will be running in May, which seems to be rushing up at us really fast. I used these ornate letter stickers. They're actually part of a roll of washi tape to add the first letter for each of the words in my little quote here. Kind of a quote. I just wrote "Shiver me timbers." It's the most piratey thing that I could think of without going too hard into a quote here. Now this is the Haunted Seas sticker sheet from Sticky, and it is the only very strongly pirate-coded kind of piece of stationery that I have come across so far, so I definitely wanted to use it. I thought it would be great in tandem with those fragmented map pieces. It is very skeleton-y though, so I feel like maybe it's not for everyone, but I actually think it's really cute. I feel like the black and white of the stickers tied in really well to the black and white of the scrolls and the book stack kind of pieces of paper that I've used elsewhere. I do kind of wish maybe the pirate ship wasn't black and white, but hey, beggars can't be choosers. I've used these shiny jewel-looking chain strips in so many layouts already this year. I thought the red worked really well with this color scheme, and it kind of gives you the vibe of the treasure, right? This might be the treasure in the treasure chest. So I'm using those to link up the left and right decoration columns across the top and bottom of the page to kind of turn this into a bit of a border, to give it a little pop of color and something a bit dynamic and shiny without using something with too much visual weight that would detract from the rest of the page. The cover spread is done, so now we can move on to the first of our functional pages. This one is a calendar or a future log for the month of April. This one I'm doing as a single page, and my very favorite spacing for a single page calendar is 4 spaces tall for each of the calendar boxes by 3.5 spaces wide. I've also added one more row at the top that is only 2 spaces tall, and that's where I'm going to put the initial for each day of the week. So the M for Monday, the T for Tuesday goes up in that first row. April actually starts on a Monday, which is very nice for those of us who like to have Monday starting calendars in our journals. I'm adding some colour to that top row where I'm going to put the initial for each day of the month, and then I'm going to use stamps to stamp the letters on top of these. I always like to use my stamps with brush pens. I just feel like that works best for me because then I have more colours available than if I limited myself to using stamp pads. It does take a little bit longer to colour in the stamp and then place it, but I find that you don't get those extra corners of the stamp showing up on the page the way that they would when you use an ink pad, because you're choosing very carefully where you place the ink on the stamp, so you don't have to worry about little mistakes like that. It's fantastic. So it definitely works with the calligraphs because that's what I'm using here. I've also used Tombow dual brush pens, I've used Tombow Fudonosuke's, I've used acrylic paint markers for this, and they've all worked really well. So you're welcome if I have just broadened your horizons on all of the colours that you have to use with your stamps. I'm just adding some decoration along the top and bottom here. I've deliberately taken my washi tape at the top there all the way from the left page onto the right so that these two kind of link together and look like they were very purposefully placed next to each other. I've also really purposefully placed the map washi tape at the top here because it's much lighter than the map fragments that we have down the bottom, so they make sense towards the bottom of the page because they feel heavier to your eye. It's not a hard and fast rule, but I think it worked really well in this example. Of course, we need numbers on each of these days for the calendar, so I'm just using the smaller end. The calligraphs have a small brush end and a larger brush end, so the smaller one is really good for tight spaces like this. And I'm adding a few more stickers from that sticker sheet so that everything feels like it makes sense together. The page we're working on now is what I'm calling the snapshot in the giveaway journal. This is one that I've quite often included in my own journal as well, and I call it Goals, Favourites and Musings in mine. I just wanted to give it an overarching name for the giveaway journal because that just felt like it made sense to me for some reason. So snapshot it is. It really is a snapshot of where you're at in your life for this very month. So the goal section obviously is where you can list out any goals that you have for this particular month. The favourite section is a nice little mini collection of anything that you are into at the time, so that can be media like movies and TV shows and music and books that you're into at the time, or it can be food or just colours that you're enjoying, or anything at all can go in your favourite section. And musings is just a little brain dump, kind of a space to write down whatever you're thinking about, whatever you're feeling, whatever's on your mind. I find some months I use the musing section really heavily and some months I don't want to touch it at all. And actually when I first quit Twitter back in the day, I found that I used my musing section quite heavily to place all of the ideas that I would have put on Twitter that I thought nobody really needs to hear those, Erin. And I am currently kind of detoxing a little bit from threads because it's gotten to be very similar, so maybe I'll be using my own musing sections again soon, we'll have to see. This next spread is for trackers, and I'm going to have 3 separate trackers all on the one spread. I really wanted to make sure I had all of the functional parts down on this page before I jumped in with any decoration to make sure I was leaving plenty of room for all of these things. So we're starting on the left here with a very condensed habit tracker. I'm making sure all the way through the giveaway journal that our winner has space to track 6 habits in every month. I didn't want to take that away from them in case they wanted to track the same 6 habits all the way from the start to the end of the journal. This is a very space-efficient habit tracker. I wanted to make sure it wasn't taking up too much room on the page because I wanted to really focus in on the mood tracker for this one. It's a bit hard to explain while I'm still setting it up, but I promise once we've got this page all sorted out, I will come back and show you how to use each one of these trackers in case you want to try them out for yourself. I also advised our giveaway journal winner that they could use these videos kind of as a manual for the journal if they weren't sure what to do, so I'm always trying to make sure that I'm explaining these things really well. This is my favorite part of this entire theme. This is the mood tracker, and I have modeled it after a treasure map, and I'm so proud of it. I think it's going to be really cute once it's done. I'm starting out with, I just did a box in pencil, but I'm lining it out around the edges with a black fine liner to make it look like the paper of this treasure map has been weathered and torn over time because it's been looked at many, many times and it's been exposed to sea air and all that good stuff. This was actually really easy to do. It's just a wiggly line with some purposeful little notches out of some areas, and I think cutting off the right corner really kind of made it look authentic. Now I'm adding a dotted line to represent the path that you're supposed to take through whatever land you're in to find this treasure, and I made sure this path takes up quite a bit of the map. I wanted it to go into every corner because this pathway is actually going to have the numbers along it that represent each day of the month, so that the giveaway journal winner, or you if you're adapting this for your own journal, can add a little doodle next to each of those numbers to represent your mood on that day. Again, I will explain this once it's all set up. I feel like that will make a little bit more sense, but just know I'm really proud of this, and let me know if you think I should make it into a printable, because I feel like that could work pretty well. At the very end of the pathway line, I'm adding a little treasure chest here. I had to look up a reference picture to be able to draw this, but it was actually pretty easy in the end. I'm going to be leaving this mood tracker page just white the way it is now, but I feel like it could look really good colored in, maybe with colored pencils rather than markers. I feel like that would give it a nice sort of weathered look if it was some scratchy colored pencil. Or actually, better yet, watercolor would look so amazing. So I left it so that our winner of the giveaway journal could decide how they wanted to make this one look, if they wanted to color it in or leave it how it was. But if you do something similar to this, please make sure that you tag me so I can see. I'm just jumping back along the line now and adding numbers at somewhat equal distances. This was really hard to paste them in a way that there would be space for all of the numbers to have a little bit of a gap next to it. Along this line, I ended up with a few more close together at the end than I did at the beginning, so watch out for that. If you are anything like me, you'll need to be very careful. I should have done it in pencil first, but I didn't. I just jumped straight in. The way it's worked out is that day 30 is actually going to be basically right on top of the treasure chest, but I think that's okay. There's a little gap there. It should be fine. And now I'm going to add little doodles that our winner of the giveaway journal, or you, if you want to use the same ones, can use as a representative of their mood. So X, because X marks the spot, although that's not where the treasure is in this case, because we know where the treasure is. This one's a little palm tree. It's just 2 lines close to each other with 4 lines coming out the top and a little kind of a ladder thing going through those first 2 lines down the middle. Next up will be a little black flag. This one's just a line straight up and down with a circle on top and then some wavy lines joined together at the end to make the flag. And this last one is an anchor. I had to look up a reference picture for this one, but it was actually pretty easy. It's a diagonal line with a little semicircle coming off the end, a cross near the top, and a circle on top of that. None of these symbols really feels like it has an emotion attached, so I've left it open for the giveaway journal winner to assign those to the moods that they think would be most helpful. There's not a huge amount of page space left for decoration here, so I'm mostly going to stick to just above and below the mood tracker treasure map I feel like this page could get really busy really fast, especially if you decided you wanted to color in the mood tracker treasure map situation, so that was something I was really trying to keep in mind here. But the end result is pretty cute. I think it all came together really well. Okay, here's a little rundown on how to actually use this spread. Starting with the habit tracker here on the side, we will pop our habits vertically along this top section here, so you'll have to turn the book to write them in that space. Each one of the spaces underneath that represents the did or did not do for that habit, so you can add a little circle, a tick, a cross, or color in the gap that corresponds. Say Monday the 1st, you did the habit, so you color it in. You can also use a marker for that instead if you prefer, and that's the habit tracker. The mood tracker we've explained a little bit already, but basically each of these symbols represents a mood. So say the anchor means happy, then on the 1st I was happy, so I will draw the anchor next to the 1 along the treasure map. There'd be a little anchor next to the 1 here. Say I was feeling sad on the 2nd, and sad is represented by the palm tree, then on the 2nd I would draw a little palm tree next to the 2. And let's say the flag means tired. If I was tired on the 3rd, I'd draw a little flag near the 3, and by the end of the month your little mood tracker treasure map will be populated with all of these adorable illustrations, and I think it would be so cute all filled in. Excuse me while I add some shininess to this treasure chest, because that's just fun. Then of course we have the sleep tracker, so the line across the top of the sleep tracker here is for a sleeping range. Say it's from 9 PM till 8 AM, maybe, for instance. Then on the 1st, say you slept from 10 through to 7, you can color in from the 10 over to the 7 and so forth every day so that you have a little record of your sleep. Carrying on to the next page here, this one's going to be a meal planner. I'm keeping all of the same functional layouts for each month in the giveaway journal because I don't want to give the winner something in one month and then take it away the next in case it was something that was really helpful to them. This is very similar to the calendar that we did back a couple of pages ago, except I'm adding an extra row this time in between each of the spaces where the day will go, because I wanted to have a dedicated space to put the number for each day. That's what this grey line is going to be. That's where the 1 on the Monday and the 2 on the Tuesday and so on and so forth will sit, so that it doesn't eat into any of the actual planning space. Because each of these boxes for each day is 4 spaces tall, my plan here was that you could use those spaces to plan a breakfast, lunch, dinner, and a snack for each one of those days if you wanted to. I like to use my meal planner as kind of a guideline for a shopping list, and then I don't necessarily stick exactly to the meals that I planned out, but it's helpful to have space to do them, so that's something that I thought I'd like to offer to other people as well. If you have special dietary requirements, or if you're trying to stick to a particular eating plan, then planning out all of your meals can actually be really beneficial, so the option is there for that reason as well. However, I have made a mistake on this spread, and I haven't realized it yet in the video, but I'm about to. I've accidentally given April 31 days when April only has 30. And I've just flicked back to check and I'm like, oh no, I've got this whole extra box here. What do I do? To start with, I'm going to go over it with my favorite white paint marker and just kind of make it disappear back into the page. But eventually I'm going to put some washi tape over the top of this as well. I'm still glad I put the paint marker down, even if I did have a bit of a spill moment here and it went a bit too hard. But if I hadn't done that first, you probably would have been able to see the marks through the washi tape that I put over it here, so it was good that I still put paint there in the first place too. It was like priming it, you know? The facing page here is another really functional one. This one is a spending log, and this is a really good one if you are trying to keep more control over your finances, really make sure you know where your money is going. This is a place to track all of the things that you buy over the course of the month and add them to their own special categories. So I feel like categories will be different for everyone. For me, you can actually see all of the categories that I do in my own bullet journal setup video from the beginning of this year. The vintage storybook themed one, I have things like life expenses, I have business expenses, beauty, clothing, car things, entertainment, stuff like that, so I can categorize everything and know how much I'm spending in each area. Just going to quickly jump back to the other page and add my meal planner heading here before we come back to the spending log. I'm jumping all around this time. There's a little bit less space for decoration at the top of the spending log page because I want to leave a lot of room for actually tracking all of that data. So I'm adding the tiniest little bit of the edge of one of those bits of map fragments and then adding my drop capital washi tape ornate letter back over the top, and then I'm going to stamp the rest of the word down. I am forever changing my mind about where I want things to go, but when you are stamping your headings directly on the page, you have to be pretty certain about those ones. So everything else can change, but the heading has to stay where it is. So the way these tables are set up is that the far left column is for item, the next one is for category, and the last one is for the cost. And then there's a separate table underneath that is for adding up the totals of each of those categories. If we go back to the beginning of the journal, I have a space for some spending limits over here in the overall budget tracker. This is a place to set the goals for how much you want to spend month to month on each of those categories. You could divide that into 12 rather than 6 if you like, and then you can kind of measure up each month and see how you're tracking against those goals and seeing if you're spending too much or if you're spending less than you expected to, and maybe you can redirect that extra money into savings, which is always good. Since this journal is not actually intended for use by me, I am always including a spare spread so that the winner can use it to track anything else that I might not have considered. This way they've got some space that's still themed, that they don't have to spend any time setting up. Well, they'll have to spend a bit of time setting it up, but maybe not spend any time decorating it unless they'd like to. But it's really just some baked in flexibility, I guess, so that the winner can not be limited by this journal in any way. And I've gone ahead and included some of the stickers and some of the fragments of the maps and things so that if they don't have a purpose for this page, they could maybe just use it for some extra decoration, they could add a quote here or something like that, or even just use it for some long form journaling or an end of month recap, a memory spread, all sorts of things. We're getting into the weeklies now, and I find the weeklies in the giveaway journal are the most challenging for me because I have to come up with enough of them to get through an entire month in one go. And in my own journal, I tend to just do one weekly at a time, or maybe two on a live stream, although I haven't been doing my weeklies in such a weekly structured sort of way. In fact, for the month of March, I'm doing my weeklies in the original kind of rapid logging bullet journal method system where I'm only doing a day at a time. Is that dailies? I guess that's dailies and not weeklies so much, but I'm using about the same amount of space as I use for my weeklies, so I don't know if it counts. Anyway, this weekly I'm setting up here has 4 boxes along the top for Monday through to Thursday, 3 boxes along the bottom for Friday, Saturday and Sunday, and it leaves a nice little chunk of space that's good for decorating on the top left side and in the bottom right corner as well. Moving on to the second weekly for this setup, this one is a bit of a fun one. I really like this setup. It has a bit more space for planning than the previous. So you're dividing each page here into 2 columns with a little bit of space in between each one. And I like to just rule them all the way from the top to the bottom and then add my decoration right through the center of the page. So you don't actually have to draw a bottom of the top row of weekly spaces, and you don't have to draw the top of the bottom row either, because that will be covered with your pretty things. So it's a pretty chill way to set this up. You do just have to be a little bit careful that you aren't taking up too much space with your decorations, otherwise you will start to run out of space for planning, which is, the point of the weekly is to have space to plan, so just have to try not to get too carried away, which is hard sometimes when you're having a good time decorating. The journal I used for this giveaway journal is from Scribbles That Matter, and it's Mitsu approved, that's my cat. This one is actually really interesting because the pages have a little marker. Within the dots of the dot grid, there's a little dot that's actually a line that marks the center of the page right in the middle of each page, and also on the outside, like the center of the top and the center of the outside edge of the pages. It really makes setting up a lot quicker and easier when you don't have to be finding the middle yourself every time, and it's done in a way that's really subtle, so it doesn't feel like it throws off the dot grid or is super obvious or anything when you don't want to use it. It's just such a good touch. Weekly number 3 here, this is a column layout, and this one gives you plenty of room for decoration if you're into that, so can be good to keep in mind. But if you're someone who likes to do a lot of planning in your weekly, you've really only got room for a skinny to-do list, so just something to remember. I'm keeping mine to 8 columns all the way across because I like symmetry, and I'm going to use the last one for notes, but if you don't need your things to be symmetrical the way that I do, you could leave that one off and have even more space for decorating, and your page will just be a little bit off center. There's nothing wrong with that. And our very last weekly for this setup, this is kind of the horizontal version of the previous. Again, it leaves lots of space for decoration, which is really fun. You can bring your decoration over the binding in the center as well, which is always, I think, really fun, although it does make your journal kind of bulky. And it has plenty of room in each of the boxes for each day, so you can do lots of planning in here if you need to, or if you don't need to, you can add more decoration, or you can add a little doodle, or you can just keep those parts kind of minimal. This one also has 8 boxes, which means there's room for a note section in the bottom right corner. This one will actually only take me up to the 28th, which is not the last day of April, funnily enough, but because more of that next week falls into May than falls into April, I prefer to keep that one in with the May pages instead of having them sit here in April where they technically fall, but then they're away from the rest of the week. And so I prefer to keep the week together rather than keeping the month together. With that, our voyage has come to an end. My April setup is complete in the giveaway journal, and I'm really happy with it. I think this looks like so much fun. If you've made it all the way to the end of the video, I'd love for you to leave me a comment down below and let me know what your favorite movie with a pirate in it is. I just think that's such a fun question. We've got 2 more months left in this giveaway journal, and then I will be switching to a new giveaway journal that hasn't yet found its way to a new home, so make sure you're subscribed if you'd like to have the chance to enter to win that one. And I hope you've come across something in this video that you might be able to adapt into your own journal and make work for you. In case you'd like to keep watching, I'll pop a link on the screen here to April last year in my bullet journal. It was this beautiful romantic soft pink theme and I loved it so much. And underneath that is a link to a playlist of all of the giveaway journal setups so far. Catch you again next week. Ahoy mateys!